I was supposed to fly out on a Monday, and on Friday I went and picked up the camera, and 20 minutes after I picked up the camera, I got a text saying that the shoot had been canceled. Obviously, it was a big bummer, but I already had the camera, so there was nothing I could do about it, and I was still excited to get out and shoot with this. For a while, I've been thinking about switching camera systems from my Canon R5 to either the Leica SL system or the Fuji GFX system, and I haven't shot on either of those other systems yet, and I've been wanting to rent both of those cameras to kind of just give them a test and see what felt good for me. And so I had this client shoot coming up. It was going to be 10 days out in Oregon, and it felt like the perfect opportunity to rent one of these cameras. But I've set up a few test shoots to get familiar with this camera before I was gonna inevitably leave for that shoot, but that got canceled. But I still went ahead and did these test shoots. I spent the weekend shooting a few different things. I shot with a cyclist, I shot with a group of my friends, and then I shot my friend Tony and his car. My idea behind this was to shoot different environments and different activities to kind of get a feeling for how this camera performs in different scenarios, so that when I go out on a client shoot, I know how this camera works in these certain situations. And the shoot I was going to do in Oregon, there was going to be a lot of active elements, there were going to be vehicles involved, so I wanted to make sure I tested out the camera with some of these things in mind. So that's what I did. I think the photos I got from this weekend are so incredible that I'm excited to show them to you guys, and I'm excited to get them into my portfolio. But overall, yeah, I really loved using this camera. It was such a pleasant experience. I think there was a big learning curve that I didn't account for. I showed up on that first shoot and was tinkering around with it and learning how the menu system was laid out and learning, what dials did what. I just kind of showed up and I was like, all right, I have this camera and I'm ready to go, let's shoot. And I wish I would have spent, at least 30 minutes before I showed up to tinker around with it and get familiar with it. But that's besides the point. I think throwing myself into the fire ended up being a good thing. I was really forced to get familiar and to learn it really quickly, so that's what I did. The first shoot I did was with a cyclist, and we went to this little roadway and greenway near my house, and we had a few different settings to shoot in, which was really nice, and there was a lot of space for both of us to get some movement going, and we didn't have to worry about a ton of traffic or anything. So the location was really great. I have never shot a cyclist before, so there was a whole other learning curve, to the terminology and the mechanics of it all. When I look back at the images, there were some mistakes that I made that, looking back now, I would love to go redo that and have these things in mind, but that has nothing to do with the camera. That was all just my approach and the way I was photographing things. So I think this was a really good first test for the camera. There was motion and there was a clear action for him to do. Since he was already familiar with what he was doing and the activity that he was doing, it was easy for me to just kind of give him some light guidance and actions and directions, and he would just execute it, and I would kind of move around and capture it. Maybe we would readjust things, but I think having that for this first shoot was really beneficial. I think one of the first things that I noticed was different from my R5 to the GFX was the autofocus. I don't think there are as many autofocus points. It doesn't track as swiftly and clearly as the R5 does, but once I got used to how the GFX operates, it was fine. Once I got the settings right and got everything dialed in, I didn't really have many issues. Yeah, it moves a little bit slower, but I don't photograph a ton of action sports or wildlife, so the need to really stay focused and tracking on fast moving things isn't a necessity for me. But it doesn't mean that I don't need something that can at least get that job done. It might just not be as fast as the R5. Same with the shutter, right? It doesn't shoot as fast continuously as the R5, but is that something I need? These are kind of the questions that I'm asking myself. I think looking back at the 3 shoots that I've done now, I think 100% the features on the R5 are really great, but I don't need them for what I do. I think the GFX would be a great solution, and I think I would get just as many strong images with the GFX versus the Canon. I don't think I use the Canon's autofocus to its full capacity and its full potential anyway. So that was kind of the first thing that I noticed, was the autofocus was just way different. And the continuous shooting was a lot different as well. The second shoot I did, I had two of my friends meet me at a park and we just did a portrait shoot. We probably just shot for about an hour, and for this shoot, I really wanted to see how the colors rendered on the GFX. So I picked a location with a lot of colors and I had them come in pretty colorful outfits, and we just walked around the neighborhood and walked around the park for about an hour and shot some portraits. And, you know, again, this one I tried to have them move around a little bit and to see how it tracks with two people. And I think I was feeling the same thing I felt on the shoot with the cyclist, that, you know, I wasn't familiar with this camera yet. So there were problems I felt like I was having, but it wasn't the camera's problem, it was my problem. So there's really no fault there, you know, once I got back into the swing of it and readjusted some things. The photos ended up turning out really well, and, you know, we got into a really good flow and it was really great. And the third shoot I did was with my friend Tony and his car. We took his car to some winding roads a little bit outside of town, and there's a little bit of a fashion element to it, but I wanted to try to track the car and get one shot of the car kind of on the street. And then I wanted to get some photos of him kind of posed in and around the car. You know, again, having a little bit of movement and seeing how this camera works in these environments. I would say the lighting conditions for each one were all about the same. So yeah, I don't really know how this camera would fare in low light. One thing I also noticed kind of in editing that felt a little bit different than the R5 was just the way the files handle. There was more latitude in the shadows, right? Like I had more room to bump up the shadows without anything getting noisy and without it looking too funny. It was just, it felt so smooth, and it felt like there was a lot of room to kind of really make these images how I wanted to make them without too much stress. You know, I think 100 megapixels probably has a lot to do with that, but it was really nice. You know, I think I was able to do some more things in editing, and that ultimately led me to experimenting a bit more in post-production in a way that I don't usually do. So with the R5, I've just been so used to my workflow with that I kind of have the same presets that I use. But right now I'm being creative and I'm experimenting and I'm trying new things and I'm getting out of my comfort zone and I'm making attempts at things that are really not good attempts, but I'm trying them and it's leading me back to a better place than I probably would have been with just the R5. So I think that's kind of been this biggest lesson, is having gear that gets you out of your comfort zone and get you to try new things. But having all these different tools and knowing how to use them together, knowing when to use them or when not to use them has been really great. I've been just experimenting and being creative with cropping, and that's been really fun, and it's allowing me to kind of refine my editorial eye instead of just like, oh, this is the photo I took, let me kind of adjust it a little bit and then ship it off. Just from this weekend and having this camera is like, already I see a shift in the way I'm approaching taking the photos and the way that I'm editing them. And I don't think I could ask for anything different or anything better. Like, that is the goal, and that is where a lot of the growth is going to happen. But I've really enjoyed using this camera this weekend, and I'm excited to take it out a little bit more over the next week or so. And I don't really know what else I have planned. I'm gonna, you know, take it out and maybe shoot some landscapes. I'm excited to share some more thoughts on this camera with you because I really love it. And I think I just want to encourage people to try new things, try new gear. It doesn't have to be the nicest thing. It could be going and challenging yourself to shoot with a point and shoot, or to shoot with an iPhone, or to shoot just with anything else, right? Like, try something different. I think especially if you've been using the same tool for so long, I think we could all benefit from a little bit of change. So yeah, I kind of get in my own head about like the gear thing. Does the gear matter? Like, can I just do it with my R5? And again, I probably can, but I think change is good. I think it's good to switch things up. And I think the form factor on the GFX feels a little bit more true with where I see my work and where I want to be going with my work. I think the GFX is like the perfect solution. So these are kind of my initial thoughts on the GFX. I'm gonna spend some more time with it, and I will come back here and share some more thoughts with you soon. But thank you for being here with me today, and I will see you in the next video.